"Don't drink that," she whispered. "It's not just juice." Michael Peterson froze the glass of iced orange juice inches from his lips. He glanced sideways and saw 9-year-old Lily Miller, small and quiet, with eyes that had learned to scan the world long before they needed to. Her voice had barely broken the silence of the morning dining room, but the warning in her tone cut through the calm like a siren. He slowly lowered the glass. "What do you mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light, almost playful. "Did I take your juice by mistake?" Lily didn't smile. She just stood there, hands behind her back, toes slightly inward, wearing the pink sweatshirt she almost never took off. Her eyes remained on the glass. "It smells like that stuff they used on me once, back at the center when they didn't want us to remember." Michael felt a chill run up his spine, despite the warmth in the air. The floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the breakfast nook in the golden light of Malibu, California. Outside, the landscaping crew was trimming the hedges. Inside, the scent of cinnamon toast and freshly squeezed juice mingled in the air, and yet everything suddenly felt wrong. He looked towards the kitchen, where Jessica, his fiancée, was humming softly, her heels clicking against the marble as she arranged a fruit platter. "Jessica made it," he said carefully. Lily nodded. "I know." Michael looked at the juice again. It had beads of condensation slowly running down the glass. It looked like any other glass of juice she had served in the last 6 months. But now, thanks to a small voice, it looked like a threat. He let out a short laugh, more out of habit than humor. "You have an incredible imagination," he said, brushing his hair behind his ear. She didn't flinch, but she didn't smile either. "I'm just saying," she said softly. "Maybe don't drink it. Not yet." He watched her leave the room, her sneakers squeaking on the tile. The door clicked shut behind her, and Michael was left, alone with the silence and the juice. He didn't drink it. Instead, he poured it down the sink. She thought that was the worst morning of her life, but she can't imagine what's coming. Have you ever felt that something wasn't right, but you didn't know what? Give this a like if you want to know what Michael will discover, and comment from which US city you're watching us from. That night, Michael found himself standing at his home office window, staring out into the darkness. Jessica had gone to bed long ago. The house was silent, but his mind was louder than ever. Her smile earlier that evening had been, as always, warm, loving, effortless, too effortless. Lily's words wouldn't leave him alone. He had taken the girl in 6 weeks earlier, after a chance encounter through one of his non-profit tech outreach programs. She had pointed out a vulnerability in his company's public firewall. When they traced the IP, they found her sitting in the corner of a foster home, using a second-hand tablet she had taught herself to repair. Michael, intrigued by her mind and quietly moved by her situation, brought her home. It had been quiet, not exactly fatherhood, not exactly mentorship, but something in between. She was observant, too observant at times. She asked very little, but noticed everything. And now she was warning him. He leaned over the desk and opened the security monitor logs. Everything seemed in order, but maybe that was the problem. It was too neat. He opened. The home network diagnostics next. Unusual signals. He blinked. One of the side devices, something registering near the second-floor hallway, had a signature he didn't recognize. It wasn't one of the standard routers, not the thermostat or the smart fridge. It was something small, active, pulsing, and unregistered. He reached for the phone to call his head of IT, but stopped halfway. He remembered Lily's face, the firmness in her eyes, the way she didn't insist, just whispered and waited. For the first time in weeks, Michael admitted something to himself. Maybe he wasn't paying enough attention, and maybe someone else was. And just when he started to trust, the past returned without warning. The next morning he woke up early and walked to the kitchen. Lily was already there, sitting on the bar stool, quietly stirring her oatmeal. She looked up, but said nothing. "Good morning," he said. She nodded. "I didn't drink it," he added more softly. She stopped, spoon in the air. Michael sat on the other side of the table, Would you be willing to show me how you knew? Lily's shoulders rose slightly in surprise, then she slowly nodded. Outside, the sun was rising over the Malibu hills, but inside, something much more important was beginning, a shift not in power, but in trust. Later that morning, as the house continued as if nothing had changed, Michael found himself quietly watching Lily from the corner of his office. She wasn't doing anything dramatic, just sitting, cross-legged on the rug near the bookshelf, drawing something on her old tablet. But her posture, her stillness, the way she subtly glanced around, he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Awareness. The kind you don't develop unless you've been let down many times. Do you always notice everything? He asked. Lily didn't look up. Most of the time, she mumbled. It's how I know if I'm safe. Her words weighed more than he expected. Michael crossed the room and sat on the leather beanbag, a few feet from her. You said the juice smelled like something from before. She nodded. At the foster home, they called it quiet time. They'd give us juice that made us sleepy. I learned to pretend to drink and hide the cups in my sweatshirt. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. I found this under the baseboard in the hallway closet. It seemed to have been hidden behind a photo frame. Lily took it carefully. The paper was worn, the ink faded. Symbols like a code or puzzle were arranged in organized rows. She studied it. It's binary, she said. Sort of. Michael blinked. Can you read this? Lily shrugged. I've seen similar things before. One of the foster parents was into online games with crypto mods. He didn't think I was paying attention. Her fingers moved across the tablet, opening a translation app. See this part? It's a MAC address. That's a device. It's not yours. Michael leaned in. So, someone hid this behind the frame? Probably dropped it, Lily guessed. Or maybe forgot it was there. Just then, Maria entered the room. She was tall, elegant even in her 60s, and moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who had kept houses running for decades. She looked between them, noticing the paper in Lily's hand. What's that? She asked. We think it's a device ID, Michael said. It's not mine. Maria raised an eyebrow. I clean that hallway every Tuesday. I never noticed anything unusual. That's kind of the point, Lily said without looking up. Whoever did this didn't want anyone to notice. Maria gave Lily a long, appraising look, then nodded and turned to Michael. I wanted to mention something strange. Yesterday morning I arrived early and saw Miss Jessica in the office. She said she couldn't sleep, but she wasn't near the books. She was near your desk. Michael straightened up. Doing what? She said she was looking for that magazine article about your company. The one from Forbes, but I didn't see the magazine around, and she seemed startled when I walked in. That detail hit him like a match on dry tinder. He remembered now. The magazine was on his nightstand. He never left it in the office. Lily slowly stood up. I think she's watching you. Michael rubbed his jaw. Do you really think she's spying on me? For whom? Lily tilted her head. I don't know. But if she's sending your files, she's not keeping them for herself. Michael turned to Maria. How long have you worked for this family? 32 years, she said, lifting her chin. Then you know this house better than anyone. Maria nodded once. I need you to help me search, he said, for anything strange, devices that don't belong here, anything moved, and I need you to be discreet. Maria didn't hesitate. Understood. Lily stepped closer. I can help too. Michael hesitated, then looked at her tablet, her quick mind, the way she had seen things he missed. Okay, he said. But no, risks. We're careful. Careful is my default, she said softly. What he said before he left will change the course of the whole story. Do you think Jessica is really spying on Michael? Comment with your theory and don't forget to subscribe to find out what they find in their search. That afternoon, the three of them began a silent sweep of the house. Michael checked the official network logs, Lily scanned for rogue signals, and Maria used her long memory of every object in every room to spot anything new or out of place. It was Lily who found the first real clue in the guest room, Jessica's favorite for visitors who stayed overnight. Lily lingered near the marble vase that Jessica had given Michael as a birthday gift. It was ornate, not exactly his taste, but he had kept it because she was so excited about it. "There's something vibrating near here," Lily said, holding her tablet close. "It's weak, but it's on." Michael gently lifted the vase. Inside, nestled under decorative stones, was a small black dot the size of a watch battery, a recording device. His blood ran cold. Maria said nothing, just quietly crossed herself. He held the device between two fingers. "How the hell did I miss this?" "Because you trusted her," Lily said. "If you've ever been hurt because you trusted the wrong person." Michael stared at the object. Trust. That word sounded different now. He turned to Lily. "Do you think there are more?" "I'd bet on it," she replied. By nightfall they had found 3. One behind the painting in his office, one inside the decorative clock in the living room, and one inside his nightstand drawer. All places Jessica had touched in the last month. Michael sat on the edge of his bed, fingers laced under his chin. "She knew when I'd be out. She always showed up with coffee exactly when I was stressed. She always offered to help organize my files." "She's good," Maria said softly. "Too good," Lily added. Michael finally spoke. "We need proof. Solid proof. Enough to hold up in court if necessary." Lily's eyes lit up. "So we don't stop them. We let them continue." Michael blinked. "What?" "We let them think they're ahead. We give them something to take," she said, a slow plan forming behind her gaze. "Something we control, something traceable." Maria smiled slightly. "Like bait." Michael nodded slowly. "We give them exactly what they want." He looked at Lily, this silent child with haunted eyes who had just saved him from a betrayal he didn't see coming. "And when they reach," he said, voice firm, "we'll be waiting. Can you love someone who broke your soul? The answer is just a step away." The next morning, everything seemed normal. Too normal. Jessica was humming along to a jazz playlist while slicing grapefruit in the kitchen, wearing a soft cream robe and her signature smile, the one that made strangers trust her instantly. Michael walked in and watched her from the doorway, his expression unreadable. She turned and greeted him with a kiss on the cheek. "You're up early," she said, tucking a curl behind her ear. "Couldn't sleep again?" "Something like that," he replied. "Just had a few things on my mind." She laughed gently. "You always do." He poured himself coffee, this time from the pot he made himself. As he stirred, he noticed Lily sitting at the breakfast nook bench, head down, pretending to watch cartoons on her tablet. In reality, she was monitoring 3 signal interceptors wired into the house's electrical system overnight. Jessica suspected nothing. Michael sat across from Lily, watching Jessica move around the kitchen as if nothing in the world could break her calm. He wondered, not for the first time, how much of what she had already told him had been real. "She's here," Lily whispered through the tablet's Bluetooth mic, barely moving her lips. "And the signal, too. 2 of them. One is pulsing, the other active. They're listening now." Michael nodded slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Good to know," he said aloud, looking at Jessica. Later that afternoon, he called Richard Davis into his office. Richard was his CFO, co-founder, and friend of 20 years. They had built Peterson Security Tech together from nothing. If Michael had a brother, it would be Richard, and that's what made what Lily had said feel like poison in his chest. "He's been here when you weren't," she had told him. "Him and Jessica whispering, looking through your desk. Last week I heard him say, 'It has to match the launch date.'" Michael didn't want to believe, but after last night's discoveries, after finding 3 active listening devices, belief had little to do with it now. He needed the truth. Richard walked in with his usual swagger, black cashmere coat over a tailored grey suit, smiling as if they hadn't spoken in weeks. "You called, partner? Sit down," Michael said calmly, gesturing to the leather chair in front of his desk. Richard dropped into it and crossed an ankle over his knee. "What's the urgency? You look tense." "Just trying to get my ducks in a row," Michael said. "You know the prototype we're launching next week, the adaptive encryption layer?" Richard nodded slowly. "Sure, it's the big one." I'm making some last-minute changes to the architecture, Michael lied smoothly. Too many eyes on the current version. I'm setting up a dummy structure. It looks identical, but the data is non-functional. Richard arched an eyebrow. You think someone is leaking information? Michael studied him. I think it's always better to be careful. Richard's smile faltered slightly. Well, let me know if you need me to do anything different. I will, Michael said. The moment Richard left, Michael locked the office door and turned to Lily, who had been watching everything on the discreet surveillance feed from the guest hallway closet. She looked up from the screen. He smiled too much. Michael sighed. He always smiles, but this time it felt wrong. Lily tapped her screen. He has a burner phone. I caught a signal. It connected to the same frequency the vase microphone used. Michael felt his jaw tighten. Are you sure? Lily looked at him directly. I don't guess. They spent the next 2 days building the trap. Michael, with the help of Lily and Maria, created a mirror folder of fake prototype files. The directory looked identical to the real one, right down to the metadata. The files were convincing, complex enough to pass a basic audit, but embedded with a tracker code that would silently notify them the moment someone tried to access or transfer them. Maria, meanwhile, set up time-stamped surveillance, voice-activated sensors near the home office and living room, plus a hidden lens inside the crystal vase. The irony was not lost on any of them, turning Jessica's own tricks against her. That night, Lily sat quietly in her room, checking signals for the 5th time. Michael knocked softly on the half-open door. Still awake? He asked. Lily nodded. Couldn't sleep. He came in and sat on the edge of her bed. You shouldn't be carrying so much weight, he said. You're 9. I was 7 when I started noticing people lying, she said clearly. It's not so heavy anymore. Michael looked at her for a long moment. Do you think she suspects anything? Lily shrugged. She's confident. Dangerous people usually are. But she's not being more careful. She thinks you're distracted. And you were, until now. He nodded slowly. Do you trust me? I trust facts, she said. But yeah, I think I trust you too. The secret will finally be revealed, and nothing will ever be the same. The next evening, Jessica announced she was going to a late yoga class. I'll be back in like an hour, she said, brushing her lips on Michael's cheek. Don't wait up. Michael watched her leave. 37 minutes later, the guest room Wi-Fi pinged active. She's back, Lily said from the control room in the old wine cellar, now reconfigured. With monitors and signal interceptors, not through the front door. She came in through the side patio entrance. She's opening the encrypted folder now. Michael leaned forward. Is the tracker active? It already pinged, Lily said. It's transmitting. And she just inserted a USB device. She's copying everything. Maria's voice came from behind. Time to call in the cavalry. Not yet, Michael said. We need to see who's on the receiving end. 15 minutes passed. Jessica completed the transfer, removed the USB, and left the room. Another signal pinged. It had been sent to an overseas server. Lily followed the trail, fingers dancing across the keyboard. Masked servers, she muttered. But it's bouncing through Frankfurt, then Singapore. Whoever is receiving is high level. Suddenly, Lily frowned. Wait, there's a response coming back. What does it say? Michael asked. Lily read aloud, eyes narrowing. Phase 2 confirmed. Final insertion tomorrow. Target destabilized. Michael tensed. Final insertion. Maria leaned closer. They think they've won. No, Michael said, a steely calm settling in his voice. They haven't even come close. He looked at Lily. Tomorrow, he said, we let them think they've destroyed me. And then, Lily asked. Michael's eyes darkened. Then we destroy them. The next morning began with a strange calm. Outside, birds sang softly across the well-manicured lawns of the Peterson estate. Inside, the silence between Michael and Jessica seemed almost choreographed. She was back to her usual charm, wearing a navy blue blouse and pearl earrings as she poured coffee as if nothing had happened. You have your important meeting today, right? she asked sweetly, looking at him from across the marble kitchen island. He smiled. It felt like he was wearing a mask. Yeah, just a quick review with the legal team before the launch. Should I stop by later? Bring dinner? That would be nice, he said with rehearsed warmth. I'll be back around 7. Lily, sitting quietly at the table with her tablet, didn't look up, but Michael caught the almost imperceptible furrow of her brow. He knew Jessica was already planning her next move. By 9 a.m., Jessica was gone again, to yoga. The moment her car left the driveway, Michael and Lily sprang into action. She sent another encrypted message, Lily reported from the monitoring room in the basement. But this one is different. Smaller packet, like instructions. Michael leaned over her. E-shoulder. Can you open it? Not directly, but I can mirror and cross-reference the ping path. It looks like it's going to someone local. How local? Local to Malibu. Southern California local. Michael frowned. Only one person in my inner circle lives in South Malibu. Richard, Lily said without hesitation. Michael felt the pressure behind his eyes tighten. Richard Davis, his friend, his business partner, his brother in every way but blood. Lily looked at him. We're going to need to catch them both in the act, he nodded. It's time for the bait. Later that day, Michael called Richard and Jessica to join him for dinner at the estate. You two, he said over the phone, careful to keep his voice steady. I have something important to share about the company. Jessica hesitated for half a second. Of course, dear. Richard, when contacted separately, sounded surprised. Together? That's unusual. You'll see why, Michael replied. Bring a bottle of that Pinot you like. As evening approached, the stage was set. Lily and Maria had worked with Michael to wire the dining room and office with high-definition video and audio. Every entry point was monitored. Every device Jessica or Richard might try to use had been replaced with replicas leading to firewall traps. At 6:58 p.m., Jessica arrived first, elegantly dressed in a fitted grey dress. She greeted Michael with a kiss that didn't linger. You look tense, she said, smoothing his lapel. Just big company jitters, he replied, leading her inside. Moments later, Richard arrived in his black Porsche, stepping out with his usual charisma, a bottle of wine in hand. Hope I'm not interrupting a romantic evening, he joked. Michael smiled and clapped his shoulder. Not at all. Come on in. Dinner was served in the glass-walled atrium, with the sun setting in amber streaks beyond the pine trees. Maria set the plates with practiced grace, hands steady, eyes sharp. The conversation started light, sports, the weather. But underneath it all, every word was a layer in the trap. So tell us, Jessica said finally, crossing one leg over the other. What's the news? Michael leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. I've made a decision about the prototype. I've decided to accelerate its launch and name the new encryption protocol after my father, the Edward cipher. Jessica blinked. You never mentioned this. Just decided, he said. Last night. Richard looked vaguely uncomfortable. Well, that's quite a change, Michael smiled. I've been thinking a lot lately about legacy, about who I can trust, who's really with me. There was silence. Jessica's fingers tightened slightly around her wine glass. And that's why, Michael continued, I've asked the FBI to audit the entire digital trail of our prototype, just to make sure everything is clean. Another pause, a long one. Jessica's voice was the first to break it. That sounds dramatic. Does it? Michael asked, eyes steady. Or is it overdue? From the hallway, Lily monitored everything through the tablet on her lap. She caught the shift in Jessica's posture, the flicker in Richard's gaze, the subtle panic that neither spoke aloud. They're nervous, she said softly to Maria, who stood behind her. Excellent, Maria whispered back. Let them cook. Back in the atrium, Jessica put her glass down. Michael, I think we need to talk in private. Why? He asked. Something you don't want Richard to hear? Richard coughed into his fist. Maybe this isn't the time. Michael's voice turned cold. No, I think it is. In fact, I'd like to show you both something. He led them to the office. On the large screen, a video began to play. It showed Jessica earlier that week, standing in the guest room, uploading files. Then another clip, Richard in the office, inserting a USB drive into Michael's personal terminal. The footage was time-stamped, crystal clear. Jessica's face paled. Richard took a step back. Michael turned to them. "I trusted you two, both of you, and you used my home, my systems, my life as your playground." Jessica's mask fell. The smile dissolved. Her voice dropped an octave. "You think you have it all figured out?" "I think I have enough," Michael said. Behind them, the office doors opened. 2 agents walked in, plainclothes, badges already out. "Jessica Quinn, Richard Davis, you are under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, and violation of federal cybersecurity laws." Neither resisted as the agents cuffed them. Lily walked in quietly and stood beside Michael. Jessica looked at her with something between fury and disbelief. "It was you," she hissed. Lily stared back, unfazed. "You should have been more careful where you put your microphones." Jessica didn't speak again as they were led away. Michael felt the weight lift from his chest. Not joy, just relief. A terrible relief. He turned to Lily. "You saved me." She shook her head. "You saved yourself. I just told the truth." He looked at her, really looked at her. "That's all it ever takes, isn't it? Someone to finally listen." That night, long after the doors had closed and the house had returned to silence, Michael stood in the office and poured himself a glass of the untouched juice. He didn't drink it. He just looked at it and smiled. The morning air was extraordinarily fresh, as if the previous night's storm had swept every trace of pretense from the Peterson estate. Michael stood near his office window, his silhouette dark, against the initial sunlight breaking through the tall pine trees of Malibu. In his hand was the same untouched glass of juice from the night before. He hadn't thrown it away. He couldn't. Not yet. Downstairs, the house had shifted back to a slower rhythm. No more of Jessica's heels clicking on the hardwood floor. No more furtive phone calls. No more carefully planned lies disguised as daily routine. In the kitchen, Lily quietly prepared breakfast with Maria. Eggs, toast, and hash browns, just as a woman named Rosa used to make for Lily on Sunday mornings in her old city. She wanted to offer something reassuring, something real. Maria placed a cup of black coffee on the table and looked at the girl fondly. "You did a big thing last night, Lily." Lily didn't look up. She stirred the eggs slowly. "I just told the truth. That takes more courage than you can imagine." Lily finally looked up, her eyes tired but firm. "Do you think he's angry with me?" Maria paused, then shook her head. "No, I think he sees you more clearly now than ever." Upstairs, Michael's phone rang. He answered with a heavy breath. "Mr. Peterson, this is Special Agent Sarah Martinez, just following up. I hear you. Jessica and Richard are in custody. We've started searching Richard's properties. The digital evidence you provided, plus the footage, will expedite the charges. But there's more." Michael turned towards the desk. "Go on." "We found a financial trail, offshore accounts, a secondary shell. Company under your foundation's name. Your name." Michael felt his heart slow. "They were using my reputation to funnel funds," Martinez continued, "and Jessica had help beyond Richard. There's someone on your board, possibly more than one, approving those transfers. We don't know who yet, but they tried to erase the trail. If it wasn't for your daughter, for Lily, we wouldn't have found it." Michael slumped into the chair. His voice, when it came, was quiet. "Keep me updated. I'll be ready." After the call ended, he sat in silence. The room felt too big, too quiet. He opened the drawer and pulled out an old photo he hadn't touched in years. It was of him, younger, next to his late wife Elena, holding a small girl on the beach. His real daughter. Her name had been Sophia. He hadn't spoken that name in a long time. The pain in his chest returned with a familiar, silent pang. Moments later, a gentle knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said. Lily peeked her head. Through the door, her voice soft. "Can I sit?" He nodded. She entered and crossed the room carefully, taking the seat in front of his desk. She wore a light yellow sweatshirt and jeans too big for her. Her braids were pulled back, her eyes a little unsure. Michael looked at her for a long time before speaking. "You never owed me anything, Lily. You understand that, right?" She nodded. "I know. And yet you saved everything." "I didn't want you to get hurt," she said. "You were kind to me when you didn't have to be." "That shouldn't be rare," he muttered. Silence passed between them. Then Lily leaned forward. "There's something I need to tell you." Michael's eyebrows rose. "Go on." She took a shaky, deep breath. "Jessica tried to give me money twice. She wanted me to stay quiet about something I saw on her laptop. I didn't take it. I just watched." Michael nodded slowly. "Did you see the account transfers?" "No. I saw a video of you sleeping. The footage was too close, like it was from inside your room." Michael's hand gripped the edge of the desk. "She had a backup drive," Lily continued. "It's in her car, behind the license plate. I saw her hide it." Without a word, Michael stood up and reached for his keys. "Wait," Lily said. "Let me go with you." He hesitated, then nodded. They walked to the garage in silence. The air smelled faintly of pine oil and cold steel. Jessica's luxury SUV was still parked inside, untouched since her arrest. Michael opened the driver's door, then knelt to examine the license plate. A few turns of a screwdriver, and there it was, a small black flash drive taped behind the steel frame. He pulled it out, holding it up to the light. For a moment, neither spoke. "What if there's more?" Lily asked. "Then we burn it all down," Michael said quietly. "Together." Later that night, in the office, they plugged the drive into an isolated laptop with no network access. What they found made Lily gasp. Videos, dozens of them, not just of Michael, but of board members, associates, government officials, each one in moments of vulnerability, conversations, arguments, secrets. Jessica had been building a treasure trove, not just for manipulation, but for influence. Lily looked away, dizzy. Michael slowly closed the laptop lid, his face unreadable. "She was preparing for war," he said. Lily's voice trembled. "And you were going to be the weapon?" He met her eyes. "Not anymore." In the days that followed, Michael began a quiet, deliberate process. He resigned from 2 boards, fired 3 executives, called private meetings with every major partner. Little by little, he rebuilt the walls of his world, but this time with stone instead of glass. Lily stayed by his side, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Michael provided for her education, appointed a private tutor, and gave her the one thing she'd never had, a voice that mattered. One evening, weeks later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily stood on the back patio with a blanket over her shoulders. Michael joined her. "Cold?" he asked. "A little." He handed her a cup of hot chocolate. She took it, then looked at him. "Do you think people can change?" "I think people can choose," he replied. "That's the difference." She nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the porch lights. For the first time in years, Michael felt peace. Not because the storm had passed, but because someone had helped him see it coming, and had chosen to stand in the rain. The rain had returned that night, not loud and furious like before, but steady, quiet, like a whisper against the windows of the Peterson estate. Michael stood in the dining room alone, a folder in his hands. Inside were names. Names he once trusted. Names connected to the same betrayal that almost consumed him. Maria entered carrying 2 cups of chamomile tea. She noticed his silence. "It's late, Mr. Peterson." "I know." He turned the folder slightly in his hands. "I've been going over the list. Lily helped make from the flash drive." Maria's brow furrowed. "And it's worse than I imagined," he said. "It wasn't just Jessica and Richard. 2 of my longest-serving board members, Harvey Cross and Patricia Sloan, signed documents authorizing overseas disbursements through a shell company." Maria set the cups down and sat across from him. "I always felt Patricia was too polite to be real. She helped me set up the fund in 2003. I asked her to oversee the college scholarship fund. She used it to launder money." Maria's lips tightened. "And now I confront them," he said, "one by one." "Alone?" He looked up. "Not anymore." The next morning, the sun rose shyly behind a curtain of silver clouds. Michael arrived at the parking garage of the LA Tech Plaza, the tall glass and steel building, an empire he had built with his own hands, now hiding the rot within its walls. Inside, the boardroom was already occupied when he arrived. 12 individuals sat waiting, murmuring, sipping coffee from their polished mugs. Harvey Cross sat at the far end, his eyes shadowed with silent calculation. Patricia Sloane sat elegantly beside him, wearing her signature silk scarf and that same glassy smile. Michael entered and placed a leather folder on the table. Without a word, the room fell silent. "Thank you for coming," he began. "Today, I'm not here as your millionaire CEO. I'm here as the man you almost destroyed." Patricia straightened slightly. "Michael, what is this about?" He opened the folder and slowly slid 2 copies of signed authorizations across the table. "These are your signatures," Michael said, his voice calm but firm, "approving the redirection of $48 million from our educational fund to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The same account Richard Davis used to launder Jessica's share." Some board members exchanged nervous glances. Harvey leaned back. "That's a serious accusation." "I'm not accusing," Michael said, eyes fixed on him. "I'm stating a fact." He pressed a button on a small device in his pocket. A speaker clicked on, and Jessica's voice filled the room. "We'll use Patricia for the authorizations. She owes me one. Harvey too. They won't ask questions. Michael is too busy chasing philanthropy and press interviews." The room went still. Michael paused the audio. "Effective immediately," he continued. "You two are terminated from your positions. The legal board will follow up on criminal proceedings." Patricia opened her mouth, but Michael raised a hand. "Not a word," he said. "Not a single word. I trusted you. I defended you." His voice trembled slightly, but he didn't look away. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed the children we promised to help, the veterans we swore to honor, the entire community that built this company on their faith." Security entered quietly and escorted both Patricia and Harvey out. Neither resisted. After the door closed, the room remained frozen. Michael turned to the remaining members. "Anyone else hiding? Anything? This is your only chance. Speak now." No one spoke. Michael nodded. "Then let's get back to work. But this time, we build with honesty." That afternoon, as Michael left the building, he saw Lily sitting outside near the fountain, reading a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. She looked up as he approached. "How did it go?" she asked. "They're gone." She nodded once and closed the book. "You did it." "No," he said. "We did it." Lily stood up, hesitating. "Do you ever regret building all?" "This?" Michael looked at the headquarters behind him, then at her. "No, I regret not watching more closely." They walked in silence for a few moments. Then Lily said, "I think we should do something." "Like what?" "Take that educational fund, the real one, and visit the schools it's supposed to help. See the kids, hear their stories." Michael smiled. "You're becoming a real troublemaker, you know that?" She grinned. "I think I had a good teacher." In the following week they traveled not in private jets or black limousines, but in a rented SUV, stopping at small schools in towns like Eureka, California, and Astoria, Oregon, places with cracked basketball courts and small libraries run by one person. Lily talked to students, asked questions, listened intently, and Michael watched quietly, deeply, as if he were learning the shape of the world all over again. One day, at a school in rural California, a boy named Andrew looked at Michael with wide eyes. "Are you really the man from the news? The one from the glass tower in LA?" Michael knelt beside him. "That's me." Andrew leaned closer. "You came all the way here?" "I came to see you." The boy looked down at his old, worn sneakers. "Nobody ever does that." Michael looked at Lily, who nodded. "Well," he said, "you're somebody, and this won't be the last time." Later, on the way back, Lily asked, "Do you think the world is changing?" "I think we are changing," he said. "And sometimes that's enough to move the world a little." That night, back at the estate, Michael received a call. It was Agent Martinez again. "Mr. Peterson, we identified the final piece. Someone else was feeding Jessica information from within your charity's advisory circle. Michael's jaw tightened. Who? A pause. Lucille Denver. She's not on the payroll, but she chaired the health outreach program last year. Quiet woman, background in data analysis. Michael's mind flashed. Lucille, always helpful, always in the background, rarely spoke, never questioned. We'll need your permission to do a deeper audit and possibly a quiet confrontation. Off the record for now. Michael looked out the window into the night. Lily was on the patio, sitting under the large oak tree, head tilted towards the stars. Yes, he said, but let's not corner her just yet. He watched the girl he once called strange, and now couldn't imagine life without. Sometimes, he added quietly, the truth shows up exactly when it should. 6 months later, Michael and Lily stood on the same patio where it had all begun. The Peterson estate had transformed into something different. Not just a house, but a home, a place where truth had a voice. The Peterson Foundation had been rebuilt from the ground up, with transparent oversight and a youth council led by kids like Lily. The schools they visited now received real support, not just empty promises. Jessica and Richard were convicted. Patricia and Harvey faced federal charges. Lucille, who had cooperated fully with the authorities, received community service and a second chance. Remember what you told me that first day? Michael asked, watching Lily read in the late afternoon light. Which part? She smiled. That the juice smelled wrong. Lily laughed. Oh, that. Yeah. I still trust my nose. And I trust you, Michael said. Completely. She looked at him with those eyes that had seen so much, but now they shone with something that wasn't there before. Hope. You know what's funny? She said. I used to think the truth was dangerous, that it would hurt me. And now I know it's the lie that hurts. The truth only hurts at first, then it heals. Michael nodded, watching the stars begin to appear in the California sky. For so long, he had built his world on weak foundations, blind trust, appearances, what looked good from the outside. Now, he was building something different, something real. 2 years later, the conference room at the Beverly Hills Hotel was filled to capacity. Journalists, entrepreneurs, social leaders, and students had gathered to hear Millionaire CEO Michael Peterson and his adopted daughter Lily, now 11, present the first annual report of the new Peterson Foundation. Lily adjusted the microphone at the podium, her green eyes shining with a confidence that had grown along with her. She was no longer the shy girl who whispered warnings in the kitchen. Now she was a clear, firm voice, speaking for all the children who had ever been ignored. My name is Lily Miller, she began, her voice echoing in the attentive silence. 2 years ago, I was just another number in the system, a girl without a voice, without a family, without hope. Today, I'm here to tell you how the truth can change not just one life, but a whole community. Michael watched from the side of the stage, his heart swelling with pride. Lily's transformation had been extraordinary, but what moved him most was seeing how she had maintained her essence, that unique ability to see beyond appearances, to detect what others missed. In these 2 years, Lily continued, the Peterson Foundation has built 47 new libraries in rural communities in California, Oregon, and Washington. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. She paused, her eyes meeting Michael's. The real story is in Maria, 8 years old, who now reads 3 books a week because she finally has access to them. It's in Carlos, 12 years old, who learned programming in our digital classroom and has already created his first app. It's in Esperanza, 15 years old, who thanks to our scholarships will be the first in her family to go to college. The audience erupted in applause. Michael approached the podium and placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. When Lily came into my life, Michael said into the microphone, I thought I would be the one to teach her about the world. It turned out to be the other way around. She taught me that truth is not something you have, but something you live. During the Q&A session, a young journalist raised her hand. Mr. Peterson, after everything that happened with Jessica and Richard, How did you learn to trust again? Michael exchanged a look with Lily before answering. I didn't learn to trust again, he said slowly. I learned to trust better. The difference is that now I listen not just to words, but to silences, not just to promises, but to actions. And above all, I listen to those who have no reason to lie to me. Lily leaned towards the microphone. Kids have an advantage, she added with a smile. We don't know yet that we're supposed to pretend. That's why we see things as they really are. 3 months later, the Peterson house had evolved again. What was once Michael's private study had now become a shared workspace where Lily did her homework while he reviewed foundation projects. The walls were decorated with drawings by children from the schools they had visited, thank you letters, and photographs of their travels. Across the country, Maria had turned 63 and had decided to reduce her working hours, but had refused to retire completely. This house needs me, she had said with her characteristic determination, and I need it. Now she worked only 3 days a week, dedicating the other days to visiting her own family in Miami Beach. But on the days she was there, the house ran like a Swiss watch. One rainy afternoon, as Michael reviewed proposals for new educational projects, Lily approached with a serious expression. Can we talk? She asked. Michael closed his laptop immediately. He had learned that when Lily had that expression, it was important. Always, he replied. Lily sat in the armchair opposite him, tucking her legs under her body. At 11 she had grown considerably, but still retained some gestures of the little girl she had been. I've been thinking about Jessica, she said finally. Michael tensed slightly. It was rare for Lily to mention his ex-fiancée. What about her? I don't hate her, Lily said, surprising him. I know I should, after everything she did, but I can't. Michael leaned forward. Why do you think you should hate her? Because she almost destroyed you. Because she lied to us all. Because she used your kindness against you. But you don't hate her. Lily shook her head. I pity her. It must be terrible to live like that. Always lying, always manipulating, never knowing what's real and what's an act. Lily's words hit Michael with unexpected force. In all these months, he had struggled with feelings of anger, betrayal, and disappointment, but Lily, with her 11-year-old wisdom, had reached a place he had not yet reached: compassion. How did you come to that conclusion? He asked. Because I know what it's like to be scared all the time, Lily replied. In the foster home, I sometimes lied to protect myself, but it was exhausting. I couldn't imagine living like that forever. Michael was silent for a moment, processing his adopted daughter's words. You know what? He said finally. I think you're wiser than many adults I know. Lily smiled. Or maybe adults forget how to be wise because they overcomplicate things. 1 year later, the wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Michael had met Dr. Sophia Mendez 6 months earlier during a conference on inclusive education at a university. She was a child psychologist, specializing in trauma and resilience. She was 28, with shoulder-length brown hair, honey-colored eyes, and a laugh that could light up a room. What Michael liked most about Sophia was how she interacted with Lily. She didn't treat her like a child who needed to be fixed or saved, but as a whole person, with her own strengths and wisdom. Lily had been the first to suggest that Michael ask her out. I like her, she had said after Sophia visited the house for a consultation on one of the Foundation's programs. She's real, like you. How do you know she's real? Michael had asked, curious. Because when she talks to me, her eyes don't change. Some people have a different voice for children, as if we were different species. She talks to me the same way she talks to you. The ceremony was held in the garden of the Peterson house, under the same oak tree where Michael and Lily had had so many important conversations. The officiant was a local pastor who had known Michael since he was a child and had witnessed his entire transformation. Lily was the maid of honor, wearing a light blue dress she had chosen herself. Maria was in charge of organizing the reception, insisting it was her gift to the family. During his speech, Michael looked towards Lily, who was sitting at the main table next to Sophia and Maria. 3 years ago, Michael said, I thought I knew what love was. I thought I knew what family was. I thought I knew what truth was. He paused, his eyes moist. It turns out I knew nothing. He looked at Lily. A 9-year-old girl taught me that true love is not just giving everything for someone, but also knowing when to say no. That family is not just blood, but choice. And that truth is not something you find once, but something you choose to live every day. He turned to Sophia. And now, this extraordinary woman is teaching me that it's never too late to start over, to build something beautiful on solid foundations. Lily wiped away a tear and shouted from her table, Enough with the speeches! I want cake! The laughter that followed was music to Michael's ears. 5 years later, the Lilly Institute for Youth at Risk opened its doors in a renovated building in downtown Los Angeles. It was the most ambitious project of the Peterson Foundation to date, a space where young people aged 12 to 18 could live, study, and develop life skills while preparing for independence. Lily, now 16, had participated in every aspect of the Institute's design. She was no longer just a beneficiary of the foundation, but its youth co-director, with a voice and vote in all-important decisions. The difference between a foster home and this place, Lily explained to a group of journalists during the inauguration, is that here you don't just survive, you thrive. You're not a case, you're a person with potential. Michael watched from the back of the auditorium, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. Lily's transformation had been extraordinary, but what impressed him most was how she had maintained her empathy and humility despite all the recognition she had received. Sophia approached and took his hand. She was 6 months pregnant with their first child together, a boy who would be named Edward, in honor of Michael's father. "What are you thinking about?" Sophia asked. "About how it all started with a glass of juice," Michael replied. "And look where we are now." Sophia smiled. "Lily says miracles don't exist, only brave people who decide to do the right thing." After the ceremony, the Peterson family, Michael, Sophia, Lily and Maria, who was now officially the adoptive grandmother, gathered at home for an intimate dinner. Lily had prepared the menu herself: barbecue ribs, macaroni and cheese, and apple pie. She had learned to cook from Maria, who insisted that a person who can't cook can't take care of others. During dinner, Michael raised his glass of orange juice, a tradition they had maintained all these years. "To the truth," he toasted. "To family," Sophia added. "To new beginnings," Maria said. Lily raised her glass with a mischievous smile. "And to trusting our instincts, especially when something smells wrong." Everyone laughed, remembering how it had all begun. 10 years later, Millionaire CEO Michael Peterson officially retired from Peterson Security Tech on his 45th birthday, ceding the company to a board of directors he had carefully formed over the last 5 years. His fortune, built on innovation and honesty, had grown exponentially, but his focus was now entirely on social work. Lily, 21, had graduated from Stanford University with a double major in psychology and social work. She was tall, elegant, but retained those penetrating green eyes that could see through any facade. She had decided to dedicate her life to reforming the child protection system in the United States. Her brother Edward IV was a perfect mix of his father's determination and his mother's gentleness. He had Michael's blue eyes and Sophia's brown hair, and a laugh that reminded everyone why happiness is worth fighting for. The family had bought a second property in Miami Beach, where they spent the summers. Maria, now 75, but still with the energy of a 50-year-old, had decided to officially retire, but continued to visit them regularly to make sure they were still doing things right. One afternoon, as Michael watched Edward play on the beach under Lily's watchful supervision, he received an unexpected call. "Mr. Peterson, this is Director Martinez from the California Rehabilitation Center. I have a slightly unusual situation." Michael tensed slightly. Calls from prisons were never good news. Jessica Quinn has requested a meeting with you. She says she has something important to tell you before her sentence ends next month. Michael had not seen or spoken to Jessica in over 10 years. As he understood it, she had served her sentence exemplarily, had obtained a degree in social work while incarcerated, and had expressed genuine interest in redeeming herself. "Can I think about it?" Michael asked. "Of course. If you decide to meet with her, we can arrange it for next week." That night, during dinner at the small family restaurant they frequented in Miami Beach, Michael told Sophia and Lily about the call. Lily, now a young woman with all the wisdom of her experiences, considered the situation carefully. "What do you feel in your gut when you think about seeing her?" she asked. Michael was surprised by the question. After all these years, Lily still went straight to the heart of things. "Curiosity," he admitted after a moment, "and maybe compassion." "Then maybe you should see her," Lily said, "but don't go alone." "Would you come with me?" Michael asked. Lily nodded. "If you want, I think it might be good for both of us to close that chapter completely." 1 week later. The California Rehabilitation Center was a modern building designed more for rehabilitation than for punishment. Michael and Lily were escorted to a small but comfortable meeting room with large windows that let in natural light. Jessica entered accompanied by a guard, but the handcuffs had been removed. At 45, she looked different, thinner, with grey hair at her temples, but there was something in her eyes that Michael hadn't seen before. Peace. She sat across from them, her hands visibly trembling. "Michael," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "Lily, thank you for coming." Michael nodded. "The director said you had something important to tell us." Jessica took a deep breath. "I want to apologize. Not because I expect you to forgive me, but because you deserve to hear it." She looked directly at Lily. "Especially you. You were just a child, and I tried to manipulate you. I tried to buy you. That was unforgivable." Lily studied her with those eyes that always saw the truth. "Why did you do it?" "Because I was afraid," Jessica answered honestly. "Afraid of being poor again. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid that if Michael really knew me, he would leave me." "So you created a false version of yourself," Lily observed. "Yes, and in the end, that false version was exactly what destroyed me." Jessica wiped away a tear. "In these 10 years, I've had a lot of time to think, to reflect, to face who I really was." She turned to Michael. "You deserve to know that what I felt for you was real. The love was real. But it was so buried under my fears and lies that I ruined it." Michael listened to her in silence, processing her words. "What are your plans when you get out?" he finally asked. "There's a reintegration program in Phoenix," Jessica explained. "I'll be working with women who have been in situations similar to mine, helping them rebuild their lives without resorting to manipulation or deceit." Lily leaned forward. "How do we know this isn't another manipulation?" Jessica smiled sadly. "You don't. And I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm just asking you to know that I understand the damage I caused, and that I've dedicated these years to becoming someone who would never cause that damage again." The meeting lasted another hour. At the end, as they said their goodbyes, Jessica extended her hand to Michael. "Take care of your family," she said. "You have something beautiful." Michael took her hand briefly. "I wish you the best, Jessica. Truly." Years later, the main auditorium at Harvard University was packed. Students, professors, social activists, and government leaders had come to hear the keynote address, "From Vulnerability to Social Transformation, an American Model," delivered by Dr. Lily Miller Peterson, now 26, and internationally recognized as one of the most influential voices on children's rights in the Americas. Michael, sitting in the front row next to Sophia and Edward, now 9, watched with fatherly pride as Lily addressed the audience with the same clarity and wisdom she had shown since childhood, but now amplified by years of experience and education. "When I was 9, Luna began, her voice resonating in the absolute silence of the auditorium. "I thought my greatest power was to be invisible. I had learned that being noticed meant pain, that speaking meant punishment, that trusting meant betrayal. She paused, her eyes scanning the audience. Today I want to talk to you about how a glass of juice changed not only my life, but the lives of thousands of children across the United States. The story she told over the next hour was known to many, but hearing it firsthand, with all the emotional details only she could provide, had a visceral impact on the audience. When she finished, the ovation lasted 5 full minutes. During the question session, a psychology student raised her hand. Dr. Miller Peterson, you've talked a lot about the importance of listening to children, but how do we distinguish between genuine childhood intuition and simply unfounded fears? Lily smiled, immediately recognizing the question as the kind of intelligent inquiry she expected from university students. Excellent question. The difference is in the patterns. An unfounded fear is usually specific and temporary. A child who says, "I don't like that person," after meeting them for 5 minutes, might just be nervous. But a child who consistently notices discrepancies, as I noticed with the juice, with the devices, with the behaviors, that child is processing information that adults often ignore because we've already learned to unsee certain things to keep the peace. A criminology professor interjected, "But isn't it dangerous to teach children to be distrustful?" "I'm not teaching distrust," Lily replied firmly. "I'm teaching discernment. There's a huge difference. Distrust paralyzes, discernment empowers. A child who develops discernment can love deeply and also protect themselves effectively." After the conference, the Peterson family went to dinner at Edward's favorite restaurant, a small family place in Boston, where they served the best grilled cheese sandwiches in the city. Edward, who had inherited his father's intellectual curiosity and his adopted sister's intuitive empathy, bombarded Lily with questions throughout the dinner. "Lily, did you really know Jessica was bad from the beginning?" Lily laughed, ruffling her brother's hair. "I didn't know she was bad, Eddie. I knew something didn't fit. It's like, you know when a puzzle has a piece that looks right but doesn't feel right when you put it in?" Edward nodded solemnly. "Like when Mom tries to cook just like Maria, but it doesn't taste exactly the same." Sophia protested with feigned indignation. "Hey, my lasagna has improved a lot." "Yes," Edward admitted diplomatically, "but it's still not Maria's." Michael observed this family interaction with a sense of deep gratitude. His life had been full of ups and downs, betrayals and triumphs, but these moments, simple, real, full of genuine love, were what he valued most. 6 months later, the award came unexpectedly. Lily was in her office at the Lilly Institute when her assistant Maria burst in with a look of utter astonishment. "Lily, you need to see this. Now." On the computer screen was an official email from the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. Lily read the first few lines 3 times before the words really registered in her mind. "Dear Dr. Miller Peterson, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as one of the 5 nominees for this year's Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of your innovative work in the protection and empowerment of vulnerable children." Lily's hands trembled slightly as she finished reading. She hadn't won yet. The ceremony would be in 6 months, but the nomination itself was an extraordinary recognition of everything she had accomplished. Her first instinct was to call Michael. "Dad?" Her voice sounded small, like the little girl she had been years ago. "Lily, what's wrong? You sound strange." "I'm nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize." The silence that followed lasted so long that Lily thought the call had been disconnected. "Dad?" "I'm here," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud I can't find the words." That night, the whole family gathered at the Peterson house to celebrate. Maria, now 80 but still with her indomitable spirit, had prepared a special dinner. She had even managed to contact some of the first children who had been helped by the Lilly Institute, who were now successful young adults. Maria Elena, the first girl to receive a full university scholarship through the foundation, was now a doctor of pediatric medicine. Carlos, who had learned programming in the Institute's digital classrooms, had created an app that connected foster families with children in the system. Esperanza, who had been the first in her family to go to college, now ran a literacy program in indigenous communities. "All of you are the reason this nomination exists," Lily told them during dinner. "Each of you took the opportunities you were given and turned them into tools to help others." Esperanza, now 25 and the mother of 2 young children, wiped away a tear. "Lily, you didn't just give us opportunities, you gave us the belief that we deserved them." 3 months before the Nobel ceremony, Michael received a call he didn't expect. It was from Dr. James Morrison, director of the Harvard International Institute of Philanthropy. "Mr. Peterson, we would like to invite you and your family to participate in our annual symposium on models of sustainable social change. We want to study the Peterson model as a case study for other organizations around the world." Michael was flattered, but also overwhelmed. "Dr. Morrison, I appreciate the invitation, but I must point out that the real model was created by Lily. I just provided the resources." "Mr. Peterson, with all due respect, our researchers have been studying your story for the last 2 years. The Peterson model works precisely because it combines financial resources with genuine intuition, transparent oversight with youth empowerment, and most importantly, because it's based on real relationships, not abstract theories." The symposium was held in Cambridge, Massachusetts. For the first time in years, the whole family traveled together outside the country. Edward was excited to see Harvard. Sophia was fascinated by the opportunity to exchange ideas with other world-class child psychologists. Maria had insisted on coming because someone needs to make sure everyone eats well. During their joint presentation, Michael and Lily showed something few philanthropic models had achieved: measurable results that sustained themselves. The communities that had been helped by the Peterson Foundation now had literacy rates 300% higher than the national average. The young people who had gone through the Lilly Institute had a re-entry rate into the child protection system of less than 2%, compared to the 40% national average. But what impressed the academic audience most was something intangible: the clear emotional connection between all members of the Peterson family. In a world where many philanthropic initiatives felt calculated or impersonal, the Peterson model radiated authenticity. During the question panel, a sociology professor from Oxford made a perceptive observation. "What strikes me about the Peterson model is not just its effectiveness, but its apparent immunity to corruption. In our studies, we've seen that most charitable organizations face problems of corruption or embezzlement within the first 10 years. You have operated for 15 years without a single scandal. To what do you attribute this?" Lily and Michael exchanged a look before Lily answered. "Professor, I think it's because our model is not based on control, but on radical transparency. Every decision we make is visible to all stakeholders, especially the beneficiaries. It's very difficult to steal or manipulate when the people you're serving can see exactly what you're doing with their resources." Michael added, "It also helps that we've lived the consequences of betrayal. We know what it feels like when someone you trust abuses that trust. That experience has made us create systems that would make it virtually impossible to repeat those mistakes." 1 month before the Nobel Schule, Lily couldn't sleep. It wasn't nervousness about the ceremony. She had given speeches in front of thousands of people, and they no longer made her nervous. It was something deeper, a feeling that she was reaching the end of one phase of her life and starting another. She got up and walked to the garden of the Peterson house. It was a clear night, with bright stars visible despite the city lights. She sat under the oak tree, where so many important conversations had taken place over the years. "Can't sleep?" Michael's voice startled her gently. "I thought you were asleep. Sophia says I've developed a radar for when my daughters can't sleep." He sat next to her on the bench they had installed under the tree years ago. "What are you thinking about?" Lily sighed. "Everything. How we got here, where we're going. Does the Nobel scare you? No, I'm scared of what comes next. The Nobel means the world is watching, that any mistake I make will be magnified, that the responsibility is even greater. Michael was silent for a moment. Do you know what your grandmother Maria told me last week? What? She told me she had spent her whole life taking care of families, but that our family was the first she had seen grow and heal completely. She said you were proof that wounds can become wisdom. Lily smiled in the darkness. Maria always knows what to say. You know what I think? Michael asked. What? I think the world isn't giving you the Nobel for what you've done so far. They're giving it to you for what they know you're going to do in the future. It's a vote of confidence, not a retirement award. The night of the Nobel Prize. Oslo, Norway, was covered in snow. Lily, dressed in an elegant black dress designed by a young American designer, was getting ready in her hotel suite. The ceremony would be in 3 hours. Michael knocked softly on her room door. Can I come in? Lily opened the door. She was clearly nervous now, in a way Michael hadn't seen in years. Hey, he said softly, taking her hands. Remember what you told me when you were 9, after we found the first listening device? Lily frowned, trying to remember. You told me careful is my default, remember? She nodded. That's still true. You're careful, you're thoughtful, you're genuine. That's not going to change because you're standing on a stage in Oslo. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I disappoint people? Michael smiled. Lily, 17 years ago, a 9-year-old girl saved my life by telling me a glass of juice smelled wrong. Not because she had a master plan or because she knew exactly what was happening, but because she paid attention and had the courage to speak up. That same girl is standing in front of me now. Trust her. The ceremony. Lily's speech was broadcast live to over 100 countries. She spoke for 20 minutes, but the words that impacted the world most were the last ones. Receiving this award is not just a personal honor, but a reminder that every vulnerable child has a potential that the world needs. Every time we ignore a child's voice, every time we dismiss their observations as just imagination, every time we fail to protect them, we not only harm them, we harm ourselves as a society. She paused, her eyes finding Michael in the audience. My adoptive father taught me that truth is not something you find once, but something you choose to live every day. Today I choose to live the truth that every child matters, that every voice deserves to be heard, and that real change always begins with someone brave enough to say, something isn't right here. The ovation lasted 8 minutes. After the ceremony, the celebration party was held at the hotel, but Lily slipped away early with her family. They found a small Norwegian cafe that was open late and sat together. Michael, Sophia, Edward, Lily and Maria, who had insisted on coming despite her 80 years. You know what's the craziest thing about all this? Lily said, holding her cup of hot chocolate. What? Asked Edward. That I still smell strange things. Yesterday at the meeting with the Nobel Committee, there was a man who said all the right words about helping children, but something in his body language didn't fit. Michael straightened up. What did you notice? His eyes moved to the left every time he talked about budgets, and his hands tensed when someone asked about financial oversight. Sophia, who had learned to trust Lily's observations completely over the years, frowned. Do you think there's something we should investigate? Probably, Lily said with a smile. But this time, I won't be alone when I do it. Maria raised her cup. To the family that sees the truth and speaks it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Everyone toasted. Edward, who had been silent during the conversation, finally spoke. Lily, will you teach me to smell the strange things too? Lily laughed, hugging her younger brother. Eddie, I think you already do. Yesterday you told me that reporter gave you weird feelings in your stomach, remember? Really? Does that count? That counts, Michael D. Confirmed. It definitely counts. 20 years later, the Lunar International Center for Child Protection had branches in 18 countries. Edward, now 14, divided his time between his regular studies and a special program Lily had designed to train the next generation of child advocates. Michael, at 55, had written 3 books on ethical leadership and had been named a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. Sophia directed a research program on childhood trauma that had revolutionized pediatric mental health practices in the Americas. Maria had passed away peacefully at 85, surrounded by the family she had helped raise and heal. Her last wish had been for her chili recipe to be included in the cookbook the Lunar Institute published each year to raise funds. Lily, now 31, was married to Dr. Miguel Herrera, a pediatrician she had met during a conference on children's rights in Brazil. They had a 2-year-old daughter, Esperanza Elena, who was already showing signs of having inherited the family's ability to notice when something didn't smell right. One Sunday afternoon, as the whole family gathered for the weekly dinner at the Peterson house, Edward made an announcement. "I've decided what I want to study in college." Everyone looked at him expectantly. "I want to study forensic criminology, but specializing in cases involving children. I want to be like Lily, but from the criminal investigation side." Michael smiled. "What made you decide that?" "Well," Edward said with a mischievous grin that reminded Lily of that age. "Yesterday I was at the park, and I saw a man taking pictures of children. Something about him smelled wrong." Lily straightened up immediately. "What did you do?" "What you taught me. I paid attention, took mental notes, and told a trusted adult, in this case the park ranger. And it turned out the man was already on a watch list. The authorities had been trying to locate him for months." Michael looked at Sophia, then at Lily. "It seems we have another detective in the family." Lily held her little daughter, who was trying to reach the flowers in the centerpiece. "Esperanza, what do you think about having a detective uncle?" The girl, who was not yet fully speaking, pointed at Edward and said clearly, "Good." Everyone laughed. Sophia observed, "I think your gift for reading situations is hereditary, Lily. Or maybe," Michael said thoughtfully, "it's that this family has simply learned to value truth over comfort." That night, after everyone had left, Michael stood alone in the garden under the oak tree. He was holding an old photo, the first photo they had taken as a family, the day Lily was officially adopted. She was 10 then, still small for her age, but her eyes already showed the determination that would lead her to change the world. Lily appeared by his side, as if she had sensed his presence. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how it all started with your courage to tell the truth about a glass of juice, and about how your courage to listen to me changed everything." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars over California. "You know what?" Michael said finally. "What?" "I think the story is just beginning." Lily smiled, adjusting Esperanza Elena in her arms. The little girl had inherited her mother's green eyes and the same intense, observant expression. "Definitely," Lily agreed. "The next generation is already here, and in the distance, like an echo of the past and a promise of the future, you could hear the soft sound of truth finding its way through the whispers of a new small voice, ready to change the world one honest observation at a time. Sometimes the biggest truths come in the smallest whispers, and sometimes all you need is someone brave enough to speak. This story is not just about them. It can also be about you. Did you like this story of hope and true love? Subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart. Comment what you thought and tell us from which US city you're watching us from. Suggest new ideas for our next stories.